Mark, you know who I go to when I need to talk about my problems?
Dad?
No, Jake Lloyd.
Oh.
That's true because, in fact, Chad was on an episode of my podcast, Elaborate. It's a free-form conversational show where I sit down with people that I know and love, much like Chad, and I dive into their lives, find out what makes them tick, and just sort of figure out why. It's not therapy, but it's not therapy.
Can you tell me what makes Chad tick? Because I have no idea.
What makes Chad tick, honestly, I think it is being the military kid who moved around a ton and he sort of found solace in the nerd culture world of stuff like Magic the Gathering and film and television and comic books, which led him down the path of being a filmmaker, which he currently is. See, I learned shit about my friends that I didn't even know on the podcast. Everybody's got to check it out because it's a lot of fun.
Where can we find it, Jake?
You can find it at elaboratepod.com or on iTunes, Stitcher, wherever podcasts are found.
Seems fine, looks fine, probably is fine, Mark.
Works for me then.
You know, it's been a while since we recorded a podcast.
It's been a few weeks, yeah. We've both been very busy. Last time we did 2 at once, so we had a little bit of a buffer.
And I think you were starting your job on the following Monday.
Yeah, I've been on it for 2 weeks now.
How's it been?
It's been really good.
Yeah?
The commute sucks. Going from one side of town to Hollywood. It's at Paramount, the lot there, and it can take over an hour to get to work in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
This past week, it's been spring break, so no one's on the road for some reason. I get to work in maybe 40 minutes instead of an hour. But everything else about the job is really, really good. I can't remember how much I said about this show last time.
I don't think you said anything because you still weren't really...
Right. Well, there's
and
information.
you're still not really in a place you can talk about it, are you?
Not in too much detail, but there's information online about it, so I can give the title at least if I never did that before. It's called Strange Angel. It's a new show for CBS All Access. It's based on a book of the same name, and it's about a guy named Jack Marvel Parsons who founded the Jet Propulsion Laboratories.
Oh, cool.
Here in California. So a lot of people consider him to be a big influence on modern rocketry.
He's a big deal.
He's a big deal.
Yeah.
You've been on your newest job too. Can you talk about that at all? It's been keeping you busy. I know that.
It's based on a podcast, which you can go and listen to the first 2 seasons of, and it's
Spoiler alert.
very similar. Yeah, you don't know the name of it though, so you're fucked. It's called Homecoming. And
Spider-Man Homecoming.
No.
That's not based on a podcast?
Or at least that's what it's called now. I don't know. Who knows if that's what it'll ultimately be called. But that's what the podcast is called.
Okay.
So. And that's about all I can say about it.
Okay. All right. Well, that's
at least for
something to
now.
go
I mean,
on.
so you were telling me you have a camera installed on your house for anyone that wants to break into your house.
Yeah, just one camera right now, but we're probably going to get a couple more to cover all angles.
But according to you, it's just mounted to the wall, but it's like fixed on there.
Yeah.
But it texts you when someone gets close enough to it.
Right.
It
It's
says,
got like
"Hey,
push
you got a person here,"
notification.
and then you can load up the image and it shows you.
Yeah.
What happens when somebody just runs up and smashes it with a hammer? It's
As
not
long
like it's recording.
As long as I have a memory card inside, if they smash the camera, hopefully the memory card will survive that.
Let's assume it doesn't, because...
Well, then I'm fucked. But the company is making a base station that would be inside the house that it's constantly communicating with, and it can record to the base station instead of just a memory card in the camera itself.
Right.
So at least, I mean, you can't, unless you put a fucking machine gun turret on the camera, you can't stop people from messing with the camera itself. But at least you might be able to have evidence of who did it,
Right.
with what and when.
I've thought about getting cameras. Just I feel like there has been like a rise in petty crime
Yeah.
lately. just in terms of like people I know whose cars have been broken into or their houses have been.
I have a dash cam in my car. I don't have it hooked up for recording all the time because then that could drain the car battery
Right.
after long enough. But I figure like there's enough chance of just getting in an accident or hit and runs and things like that. A dash cam I can get for $40. That's like an easy investment to make in your car. But you live in an apartment. Where would you put a camera? Like out on your porch or something to make?
I feel like
or even inside.
It'd have to be inside somewhere to.
Yeah. They make a lot of cameras like that too.
Yeah.
That you can just put on a table and it's always.
Although we get so many weird people like in our hallway that there's times like somehow they get in, just because either the front door of the building's not locked or they sneak in through the parking garage. When the gates open.
Oh, like
they follow a
car in there.
Yeah, and I've seen some people walking through the parking garages sometimes with like just don't look like they belong there.
I understand that people who are committing crimes like that are usually in pretty dire straits. They're pretty desperate for anything. But just how fucking much... Like, okay, you break into a car, you rip the stereo out of the dashboard.
Right.
Who is going to buy that? And for how much money that it's actually worth it to you?
It's probably...
You're going to get $10 for that? Jesus.
It's quantity over quality. I bet you
they just go... They hit as many cars as they can.
Boom. And, I mean... It seems like every single time someone says, "Oh, someone broke into my car," and and I just didn't want to go back to my car and get my laptop out of the passenger seat. Like that was like the last 3 people I know.
Yeah, that happened to Maddie,
well,
right?
I can't imagine why someone smashed your window.
Yeah, the only thing valuable in my car is the dash cam itself and my binder of CDs, which nobody fucking wants.
Typical. Yeah. So we haven't recorded in a while. I feel like we've not talked about a lot. I can't really think about what though, because we've been working so damn much.
Yeah.
We did start doing ads. Did you listen to our episode?
I haven't really had a chance to listen.
Christ, Mark.
My time is monopolized by a bunch of
I
other
thought you were
people
gonna say,
in my life.
My time is my time.
My time is my time, but the time that's not my time, I don't really get to. I mean, I still have the email. I will listen to all those ads. Man, do you remember that night we had to record all those things?
Oh yeah.
That was.
You were like
that was painful.
Full panic mode.
Oh yeah.
The next day, you were like, I don't know if I could do this anymore. I was like, whoa, calm down, back up.
No, I can do the podcast.
Did you listen to the ones that Jake sent us?
No.
They're all pretty good. We've got like 12 ads, I think, and our last episode and this one had 2 different ones.
Mm-hmm. Are you putting one at the beginning and one at the end or something?
I'm putting one at the beginning, and I moved our Dragon Wagon thing to the end.
Okay.
I'll kind of shuffle it up, I think, but because we can't put 2 at the front. We'll just put 1 at the front, and then
everybody else does.
Our theme song. We haven't even talked about our theme song.
No, we haven't.
Have you even listened to it?
I have listened to the theme song. Jesus, that was a long time ago that we had.
Mark just gave me that look, like I don't think I actually have.
I have.
Anyway, it's not important. We sat down. I don't even know. I know it's your week to pick a movie.
Yeah.
But we haven't even talked about what that movie is going to be.
No.
So I assume you've already picked it.
We have so many other things to talk about in the world.
Oh, what else is going on here?
Can we talk for a second about I don't even know how to say his last name. John K., the guy who created Ren and Stimpy. Have you heard the news about him?
No.
Just came out yesterday. I have had an inside scoop to some of this, but John K. has been accused of and has acknowledged having, when he was like 40 years old, 15-year-old girlfriends. He had a way of manipulating teenage girls who would contact him with like fan drawings of Ren and Stimpy saying like, I want to work in animation. He would basically fly them out here. He would have them live with him, and as they became more attached to him, he would have
basically
romantic relationships with them. He would bring them to work at his studio, and this happened to at least 2 two girls, now grown up, who have told their stories to BuzzFeed News. And I knew about it a little while ago because Ashley works with some organizations that those
people were
women
going
have
after.
been talking to and saying like, hey, John Kay did this shit years ago. And apparently a lot of people either knew about it or suspected it, and nobody ever did anything. He even acknowledged it like in a Ren and Stimpy book. Like he was making jokes like, oh yeah, I've been dating that girl since she was a teenager, and it's fucking true. And through a lawyer, John Kay has said, like, yes, the 90s were a bad time for me. I drank too much. I had, mental health issues. I'm much better now.
That's obvious just from the show itself.
Right.
You say it like this is an uncommon thing. I imagine this happens.
I mean, I don't know.
Quite a bit where you've got people who fan out over someone, basically. Especially like comic artists kind of have. I don't want to say that everyone who reads a comic book is a deviant, including across all ages.
Yeah.
But they tend to be more
perhaps there's a higher
homebodies
rate
who have well, especially someone like him, like that show is so like perverse and weird. Who else was R. Kelly was like saying, was it R. Kelly yesterday?
R. Kelly,
had like
he's
a
in court now.
14-year-old sex pet.
Yeah, he's being sued or arrested. I don't know what the hell's going on exactly, but somebody was saying like, yeah, he was grooming teenage girls to be his sex slaves, essentially.
Yeah,
that's fucking nuts, man.
Well, this is a wonderful topic you brought up.
Well, I just wanted to, I don't know, get your thoughts on it, I guess.
Get my thoughts on it.
I guess I'm getting your thoughts.
It's pretty fucked up. It's kind of one of those, it's funny because, you go back 200 years ago, this wouldn't have been a big deal at all. Like this would have, like the parents would have been pushing the 14-year-old towards this person. Yeah, go. They're
thanks,
successful.
Chad. Everybody now is just too uptight.
No. I'm saying that we've gradually figured shit out over time. We're still fucked up, but yeah, that's it. That's someone who needed to be more aware of their power, and it sounds like he was just a drunkard who didn't really care about consequence and like just basically used his power, and now he's regretful, whatever. It's like
and that's coming from a lawyer, so who knows how
like
he really
dickbag,
feels
you
about
really like, even if the girls like were headed that way, like maybe they wanted it, that's like
that's one thing that kind of
they're so young, they can't really think about the shit that you decided when you were that young. Like at the time you're like, I can make my own decisions, I'm an adult.
That's a thing that they
really
say,
just a fucking idiot.
Right. In their interviews with BuzzFeed, they're saying like, at the time I thought I was being such a rebel and society doesn't get us with our unique relationship or whatever.
Right.
But it really was him abusing his power.
Yeah.
Saying like, I will totally get you a job in animation. And I don't think this article interviewed the parents or anything like that, but
no, because they probably were sitting at home with shotguns ready to kick down his door.
I don't know about that.
Or in some cases they do go along with it. Like I think
either the parents were cool with it or they were totally unaware, and they said, "You can get my daughter a job, great."
Well, this kind of goes back even to Polanski, like, because that was similar to what happened there. Like the mom like really like pushed the daughter out, like, oh yeah, like, you need to be around this guy, just go along with it and, keep casting things, But even the mom wanted the fame too, So it's kind of like...
So even if these relationships were willing partnerships or whatever, the girls were still 15, 16 years old. They are not allowed to make that kind of decision for themselves.
Right.
They're a child.
I guess then the question becomes, well, what do you do with these people?
Make sure they don't do it anymore.
You can't stick them in a rocket and what's the
shoot them into the sun.
Shoot them into space, like test explosive decompression in space, that kind of stuff.
Well, as part of all these revelations now, the cops have already said like, oh yeah, we can't get a warrant. It happened too long ago. So it's like statute of limitations at play, and I'm not really sure how all that works. I don't know. People just need to keep exposing this kind of stuff so it happens less and less. It's going to be hard to get 100% of it.
Yeah.
But we just need to keep, putting sunlight on it.
Right.
And one more person I want to talk about.
Are we watching a movie about...
We're not watching a movie about that.
14-year-old?
No, but I think it's important to stay at least like sort of up to date on the industry shit that's happening.
Sure.
Dan Schneider.
I think that's just a people problem. Of course, the industry has a spotlight on it right now, but
yeah.
although it feels like it's kind of
always
turned off
will.
because they've already burned off half the industry.
I think the industry is always going to have a spotlight on it because people all over the country and world pay attention to it. It's not like, I bet the same things happen in the hotel management industry, but nobody gives a shit about them.
Right.
Do you know who Dan Schneider is? Have you heard that name?
Dan Schneider, isn't he the... Well, I know Dan Snyder. He's the owner of the Washington Redskins.
No, not him. Dan Schneider is a producer, show creator for Nickelodeon. That was Nickelodeon parted ways with him in this past week over allegations of abuse, and not the kind of abuse you're thinking of. More like he has temper issues. That's what they're saying in the press release. He just said, for years, like he's been around since the 90s. He made like Kenan and Kel. He made the Amanda Bynes shows, and he's
Did
like,
he drive Amanda Bynes into her mental state with no recovery?
No idea. But there have long been rumors that he is a pedophile, and I don't want to encourage those rumors because there have been no...
I was going to say, are we going to get a defamation lawsuit?
No. I'm saying it right now. There have been no serious allegations of that. It's all internet trolls going like, this guy looks like a pedo.
He runs a children's network. He must be a pedophile.
Right.
Kind of like people who would say that about, like, say, Mr. Rogers, just because it would make sense.
Yeah, and these assholes online, they found, of course, the least flattering photo of this guy. And they say, like, oh yeah, it's obvious this guy's a pedo. Well, it's not obvious, but... he was just let go from his Nickelodeon contract, even though he is in charge of like some of their biggest hits in the last 20 years. They've broken it off because he's had temper issues. I don't know what that entails, if he just yells or if he's like physically assaulting people.
Right.
But even that, I guess that's worth exposing and getting rid of somebody who cannot be...
Well, that one's trickier because, like, for the job I'm doing now, like, we had to sit in on a basically a harassment seminar, and the lawyer who was teaching the seminar was saying, abuse of that regard is not you can't really fire someone over them just being an asshole.
Right.
You can't.
You can't fire somebody for asking you to come and work on the weekends every weekend.
Right. You have to find a way to find something that is fireable. That's more of a harassment thing.
Well, the press releases here are not framing it as a firing. It's just like, well, it seems like all of his projects are at a natural end anyway, so we're just not going to continue this.
They probably threw a ton of money at him and gave him a massive
$7 million.
Yeah, see?
That's what it's been rumored at.
Wow. They basically just finally got to a point where they're like, okay, we just can't deal with this guy anymore.
Right. Between the unfounded rumors of his weird, like, kitty porn, whatever.
Who knows about that?
I mean, all of the more, I keep using the word serious, like the more believable accusations of him having a temper. Between all that, they probably look at $7 million as an easy way to avoid a future lawsuit.
Have you met many people in Hollywood? Because we both worked at studios, here and there, and I've never really met any people that really fell into these categories. I mean, like where they were so
the abusive categories.
I have ran into people that I definitely didn't like and were very like, combative types.
Well, now even if I did meet those people, am I allowed to say?
Yeah, right. I guess not. No.
I would say that some companies that I have worked at, the people who are in charge, like CEO level, there have always been comments thrown around at those places like, oh yeah, you don't want to get on their bad side, they'll ruin your career forever. But nothing like, I've never heard about anybody sexually taking advantage of people. Nothing like that. No casting couch sessions.
No. Yeah, I don't
And
even...
maybe that's because we're guys. Like, we're not victims to that type of thing.
No.
Typically.
On the other hand, though, that might... being a man in the atmosphere, like, you tend to... You do have people say, like, sexually explicit things to you because you're a guy.
Yeah.
About
people can
other
make more jokes to you and get away with it.
Right, exactly. Because they assume that you're not going to turn around immediately and write it down on a notepad.
Right. And while I don't encourage those jokes, I'm mostly fine with them. At the same time, I would be totally okay if no one ever told a dirty joke at work ever again.
Right.
I'd be fine with that world.
Well, especially if it's somebody you're not a friend with, you know. It's like, I mean, our sense of humor is pretty dark and pretty fucked up sometimes. But yeah, at work there's really just there's no need.
Yeah, and in a creative field, some people need to let loose. Like, that's how their psychology works. That's how if they have to be on guard and make sure they're not saying the wrong thing all day long, then they kind of like, they wear themselves out and they can't do their creative job.
Sure, yeah.
But that's hardly an excuse.
Right. Yeah.
It sounds like you need a different job.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I don't know. I'd love to see this kind of shit in play. Somewhere, like, I mean, just like someone abusive, just so I could see how they appear versus everyone else.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the percentages say that, you know, we should have worked with people who are guilty of this in some respect. And I've certainly known people that emotionally just don't know how to deal with relationships or deal with the opposite sex, and they're just kind of a little creepy about how they approach those things. And the work real life balance, that thin line is very passable sometimes for those people. Like, they don't necessarily understand, but those people, now that I'm pushing 40 and you're, you know, pushing 20,
36.
I feel like we just don't see those people anymore because they usually don't last into a professional career past their, you know, late 20s, early 30s, I would imagine. Maybe that's it. I don't know. But the turnaround in our industry is so fast. You know, we're constantly looking for new work that, you know,
maybe we're not around those people long enough to even notice what's going on.
Right.
Like, it's something that's revealed over years instead of months.
Right.
So, what we're going to watch today is An Open Secret, the documentary about Hollywood pedophiles.
Hey.
We're not watching that, no.
Oh, okay.
But maybe we can some other time. I actually did get that because...
Is that a doc? I don't think I've ever heard of that documentary.
Oh, yeah. The makers of this documentary called An Open Secret, after, like, Corey Feldman is talking about it more and all these Weinstein things are happening. The creators of An Open Secret released the movie for free, I think, on Vimeo. So it is available out there.
I'm actually expecting you to say, we're watching Dodgeball. Something just
totally
unrelated.
Well, it is unrelated. We're going to watch a movie called The Last of Sheila.
Okay.
Have you even heard of this movie?
Never in my life.
Right. This was a strange movie because it's Anthony Perkins' only screenplay.
Oh, wow.
The guy who played Norman Bates in Psycho.
So it must be amazing.
Well, it was a movie that he wrote. I think he was a producer in some respect, and he basically made the movie with a bunch of actor friends.
So he...
Back in the 70s.
But he didn't direct.
He didn't direct
He
it.
just
I
wrote
forget who directed it. Here, I got the fucking
Alfred
page.
Hitchcock.
Directed by Herbert Ross, whoever that is.
Wow.
Written by Anthony Perkins and Stephen Sondheim, who is what he does, like musicals, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's got a pretty strange origin. They just had this idea.
How did you see this movie?
My friend Courtney Pedraza introduced this to me
Okay.
years ago, probably 8 to 10 years ago now. And it's based on a real life mystery game that Anthony Perkins and Stephen Sondheim, like, they were part of a circle of friends that would do these kind of like mystery weekends where they would try to figure out a puzzle that somebody made, and they based it on that concept, but then they kind of threw like a real murder into the mix for their story. And
it's kind of like Clue.
Oh, it's got not Bo Derek. It's got Raquel Welch in it. James Coburn.
Ian McShane.
Yeah, young Ian McShane.
Super young.
Richard Benjamin, who you may not know the name of, but you'd recognize him for sure. Dyan Cannon. So it's I think a very good mystery, and it's such a strange like beginning for a movie, and
Interesting.
it's just like a bunch of actor friends or entertainment industry friends who got together and made their own movie.
Well, it's funny because I'm seeing a boat on an island.
I think part of the murder mystery aspect to the movie was sort of based on Natalie Wood's tragic end.
But didn't Natalie Wood die in 1980?
Did she?
I think so.
Oh, maybe I made that up then.
Or maybe not 1980, but
What
yeah,
was
that's exactly what I saw the poster here in front of us, and I thought Natalie Wood.
No, I think you're right, but what's the one that has
She
like
made
Orson
Brand.
Welles involved and Charlie Chaplin on that boat?
Oh,
The Cat's Meow was
I have no
based
idea.
on it. Maybe it was sort of using that as inspiration. I don't know. There's no commentary track on the movie, so I couldn't
What
really
was the name of the movie that Natalie was doing? It was like Brainstorm, or
I don't know.
Wasn't it with Christopher Walken?
Yeah, Christopher Walken.
Who, of course, she was with, and Robert Wagner.
Couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
Well, oh yeah, Robert Wagner is currently being investigated as a person of interest.
They, I mean, who knows? Like, they always bring this shit back again and again because people want to believe those things. It's like, people want to believe, that Courtney Love killed Kurt Cobain, that kind of thing.
She totally did.
Well,
I've seen the documentary. She did.
Yeah, right. From the guy who's convinced that Tupac is still alive or whatever.
Really?
The documentarian of that, like, he's known for
God.
stirring up the pot, and he makes great documentaries, but he is known to be
must be taken with a grain of salt.
Speaking of our last episode and how documentaries shouldn't necessarily get super involved, he tends to get very involved.
Well, you gotta documentaries where the director, producers have a distinct interest in their story being true or whatever, where they can make more money,
right?
If people think
But
their version is the truth,
or they want to be narrative filmmakers and they're making
yeah
documentaries and they add a story to it a little too much sometimes. But
yeah.
Anyway, we should probably watch this.
Well, let's just watch it. Yeah, let's get into it.
All right.
The Last of Sheila.
Sheila, come on back. Now, where the hell are you going?
That was the last of Sheila. That was what they thought anyway. Until they started playing Sheila's game. Tom thought he could beat the game.
Don't touch.
Christine played for the prize.
Get me a glass of water and a couple of
Clinton was the master of the game.
I call it the Sheila Green Memorial Gossip Game.
Lee played because she had to.
You think you'll ever hear the last of Sheila? Tommy, let's just make this movie and put the money in mutual bonds and go home.
Philip knew too much about the game.
Maybe Clinton broke the grill, nobody else was there. And I'm just puttering my way through the debris of my rusty imagination. Tom, where's the ice pick?
What?
I said, where's the bloody ice pick?
Anthony thought you played for fun.
I think it's the moment. My moment. Time for my fear.
Alice knew the game was for keeps.
Not here, for God's sake. Everybody's walking around. Listen, I want to see you tonight. I'd like to talk to you. It's about this game. I know we said we'd be careful, but I don't think anybody will be on the top deck.
What's the game?
Well, the idea is to discover everybody's secret. Without peeking, of course, and to prevent the other players from discovering yours.
And how would you do that?
Every day we'll park in a different port where you can discover the proof of one person's secret. I'll announce what secret it is to look for and give you a clue, which will tell you what to do and where to go on shore. Now, if you solve the clue properly, it'll lead you to where the proof is.
Any number can play.
All right, now squeeze in closer.
Any number can die.
Squeeze in closer, you'll be out of the picture. And I don't mean this one.
Betty, Betty, Betty. Betty, Betty, Betty. Bette Midler.
Bette Midler singing the musical number
The
at
musical
the,
number going
the end
out.
of a murder mystery.
So this, it had echoes of Robert Altman,
Mm-hmm.
for sure. I thought it was more interesting than a Robert Altman film.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And funnily enough, he would go on to make his own Hollywood-styled murder mystery, not styled, Hollywood...
Right, The Player.
Yeah, The Player.
Right.
Murder mystery full of Hollywood characters.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is the kind of movie that only people who are in this industry would write, I feel like. Although it's got the Agatha Christie thing going on. It's definitely a
it
party,
has a totally
party
classic setup.
murder mystery, escape game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a totally escape room setting.
I had forgotten just how sort of archetypal the opening of the movie is, where everybody gets a mysterious invitation to a party from a wealthy host, and they all have connections to each other, and they all might have a motive to kill one another. Yeah, it's like it's straight out of And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie.
Right.
And it's also got some shades of Murder on the Orient Express, where they're all on this boat, and one person... Whoop.
Oh, Jesus. Turn off your phone, Mark.
It's got shade... Let me just say that again. It's got shades of Murder on the Orient Express. They're all on a boat instead of train here, and one person's been killed, and they all have to sort of put their heads together and figure out who did what. I still find this to be a very entertaining mystery, because there are enough clues and red herrings and weird little things that you're not sure what you're seeing or who people are talking to.
Right.
It really pulls you in. I would say the worst part about the movie is the beginning, because it's got that very Altman style, people talking over each other and really fast. You don't even know who they are, and you eventually have to catch up and find out what their characters and backgrounds are.
Cutesy conversations between people that doesn't necessarily make sense. It's kind of like they've got their own.
I think I would like it more if the first time we meet all these characters is on the dock about to get on the boat. Because I think that scene you
still needed the setup of the murder, the hit and run murder at the beginning of the movie.
Sure, there's that.
And they're kind of like...
I think even that could have been
They're
a flashback.
very blasé attitude about someone within their group being murdered.
Yeah.
Amongst other things.
Amongst other things, for sure.
We learn later on.
And
they're all very blasé about...
It's only a year after this hit and run killing.
Right.
And people are joking about it on the anniversary of the murder.
Right.
What the fuck?
So it's kind of got that no one in this movie really is a saint.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, the setup of this week-long mystery game set in the south of France. James Coburn plays, I guess he's a director, yeah?
Yeah.
Looks like a director.
Director, writer, something like producer.
Yeah, some big shot who has a huge yacht for all this to occur on. He gets everybody together, and it's sort of...
well, it's his wife that's run over, is it?
Yes.
She's run over at a party that he's throwing.
And even he doesn't seem
No.
that too upset about it years
He's
later.
not too nonplussed about it.
Mm-hmm. But maybe that makes sense because he's got a plan. Or no, actually, it's just a party.
Well, it felt...
We're getting ahead of ourselves. Yeah. The concept of the game is every night they have to go onto the what do they call that? They have to go onto land. There's a better phrase for
Port?
this. I'll restate all this. It's gonna be
the hell are you talking? So
they have to go to shore.
Sure.
And they're given a clue, and they have to identify one of the other guests to the party. They've all been assigned a little card that says, "I'm an informant," or
right.
What's one of the other ones?
Which didn't entirely...
I'm a shoplifter.
Yeah. That stuff made sense. Like, the beginning of the movie didn't make really too much sense to me when they're running around the streets of France or Rome or wherever the hell they are.
France.
Yeah. But they said Rome later on, which kind of confused me. But
I think when he said Rome, he was sort of... That's when he was retelling what we just watched as a movie as his own movie. Like, he was turning it into a script.
But it just sets every character up with their own
well,
identity. It's very live action role playing, you know.
Yeah, but
it's like he's handing them packets of like, here's what your personality is, but it's actually someone else's personality.
Yeah, well, it's implied pretty early on that these cards that people have been given may not mean anything to the person they've been given, but they apply to someone else at this party.
Within the group, yeah.
Like the guy who gets the shoplifter card, he's not the shoplifter, somebody else is.
Right.
And that one's the easy one to figure out. But then it kind of spins more and more out of control, and on the second night of this game, it becomes very real because somebody is actually murdered. And the rest of the movie... And that's about the halfway point. The rest of the movie is people trying to figure out
what it was.
Yeah, and who killed him and why.
The 6 cards that are handed out are alcoholic. Yeah, it says you are an alcoholic.
No.
I thought there was one that was there was an alcoholic one.
Well, they spell out the name Sheila at first, but the cards that we are shown when we see all of them together, the A is missing. And has been replaced with a different one.
But we did see it at the beginning of the movie.
They showed it?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Because I remembered seeing specifically the alcoholic card. There's I mean, I guess technically there's 7 cards because one is created after the
Spoiler alert.
Well, yeah.
To spell out Sheila, we've got shoplifter, homosexual, ex-convict, informant. What was that? Oh, little child molester and alcoholic.
Yeah, bringing it back full circle with the first half of our conversation with the little child molester.
Yeah, I forgot all about that element of the movie, but it makes sense to
Speaking
our
of
opening.
being blasé,
Nobody says a fucking word about somebody being a little child molester. When they learn that one of the
people in the group is a child molester, they're just kind of like, eh.
I guess at that point they're more concerned with somebody being a murderer.
And
they'll get to the child molesting.
But when you find out who the little child molester actually is, there's no confrontation to that person at all.
Nope.
In regards to who it fits with on the picture.
Yeah, they totally let that slide.
Yeah.
But it is kind of funny when people are going through and figuring out which card is assigned to whom. The guy who admits to being an ex-convict, he's like, well, there's 2 left, take your pick. It's either a hit-and-run murderer
or a
child molester. Which one are you? So at least
it's not the most unique movie for sure. We've seen this countless times. But
Right.
the things they do are a little different, and it was enjoyable just because it was a movie from 1973. So like the Scream franchise and everything that kind of like mimics this in a way.
It's not that it's the most original story, but I think using these Hollywood characters is a neat twist on it. And if we can skip to the actual conclusion of the story, spoiler alert big time, because we haven't yet said who the killer is or why anything's happened. I will now. What we thought was the hero of our story, the guy we're kind of most attached to, the one we're introduced to first,
Right.
in the movie, turns out to be the killer, and James Mason, who is the child molester.
The guy you think is the child molester.
He's the one who figures it all out in the last half an hour.
But he's not the child molester. He's not.
What do you mean he's not?
According to his picture, it was actually the blonde girl, Dyan Cannon.
Dyan Cannon.
Dyan Cannon, who's the agent, who's the actor agent. She was the one who was listed under little child molester.
No, the way they were arranged was how the game was going to turn out. That was how James Coburn had arranged people under the letters, because James Coburn was under S for shoplifter. And the first night of the game, we see on the TV he was the shoplifter, but in real life, it was Raquel Welch. So in real life, he was the child molester.
And that's where there are some things that lost me along the way.
Makes perfect sense, Chad. I don't know what the movie could have...
Apparently, I need to see it more than once.
The last 45 minutes of the movie are literally explaining everything.
Which was my big problem with it. When we had to pause it at one point, and we were only halfway through it, I was like, geez, it seems like it should be tying up right about now. But then it kind of goes on, and it has several endings.
Maybe the way we're explaining the game and everything, it sounds really convoluted. When it's all said and done, it seems pretty straightforward to me. They just take a long time to actually explain what happened at every step and who saw what and who was doing, who stole the ice pick and things like that.
There's a whole wealth of movies from this era that just disappeared from time.
Yeah, like this one.
I mean, and the further back you go, obviously, the more that happens. 70s, though, I feel like there's a sandwich shop in town that I go to all the time called Giamella's.
Yeah, okay.
And they've got the TV up in the corner, and they've always got it set to, I forget the channel, but every time I go in there, I have no idea what's on the monitor. It's like a movie from the 60s or 70s every time.
Nobody you recognize.
And
nothing
well, there's always somebody I recognize. Like this movie's got recognizable talent in it. But it's like every time I go in there, I'm like, where the hell has this movie been? It looks kind of good. Like there's this whole wealth of shit.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you dug it up. I did enjoy it.
Good.
I thought it was very well written, and it kind of makes me sad that Anthony Perkins only wrote, this one movie.
Right.
Alongside Stephen Sondheim, which helps,
I guess I was getting to the big revelation of what happens at the end, like the very cynical player-esque ending. This was the player before it was the player.
Yeah,
right.
Coburn's in that too. James Coburn is.
The child molester, James Mason, he's a film director in this movie, and he explains everything to the real murderer, like, I know what you did, but then somebody else walks into the room and sees the murderer trying to kill James Mason, and they break it up. Now there's too many witnesses. He's too deep. He can't kill all these witnesses.
Right.
And then they're like, oh no, we're just talking about a movie that we're going to make. And we're all going to be rich. And this guy's going to give me $5 million to pay for it. And he'll be stuck in rewrites, which is his nightmare.
Which was, I had fun with that ending because it kind of fit their characters.
Yeah.
Because they're so blasé about all this pretty dark, seedy shit for them to turn into Hollywood types.
And it's all just business.
Let's profit from this.
Right.
Let's profit from this inconvenience that we've had.
And it reminded me again of the little joke in The Player. Everybody at the lunch table going like, we talk about work all day long. Let's talk about something else. And then they can't think of anything else. This whole trip is supposed to be like a fun vacation thing. It always turns back to work. People trying to get jobs from other people.
Yeah.
or 4 other people. And it was, yeah, it's definitely a Hollywood-made movie. I hope that people who exist outside of the entertainment industry would find it as funny.
Mark, we've got a whole podcast about this shit. Just talking about movies.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, people
Have you killed anyone lately?
No, I haven't.
Okay, just making sure. Do we know anything about Herbert Ross, the director of this?
No, I don't know anything.
I don't know that I've ever heard of the man. At least according to everything that you have, it's seems to be his only movie.
No, I'm sure.
Can't possibly be.
I'm going to do a quick search. Herbert Ross.
All right, so True Colors, wasn't that was a wow. Okay,
My Blue
so
Heaven, Steel Magnolias.
True Colors, My
Footloose.
Blue, yeah. Undercover Blues, Boys on the Side. So really,
Goodbye Girl, Sunshine Boys, Funny Lady. So a lot of like Barbra
does have
Streisand was in a
some-
few of these, right?
yeah.
Goodbye Mr. Chips was his first feature.
So it's definitely got some bigger movies. Let's see, yeah.
I would say
His
if
80s
all
was
he
his
directed
heydays.
if all he directed was Footloose, I would consider him a very mainstream director.
Yeah, Steel Magnolias for sure. Okay, yeah. So because it was clear that he definitely had talent as a director to kind of have faith in the script and let it kind of play out in front of you, but also kind of adding some style to it.
Yeah.
You know, not just setting a camera somewhere and letting it happen, but
Right. This one was in 73. It was only his 5th feature. Only his 5th feature.
right.
So I feel like
Back
maybe
in the days of when it was hard to make movies.
yeah, maybe some of his blocking and stuff was a little awkward or just kind of boring. But there were certain things I really liked a lot, like when James Coburn is on the descending platform.
That was awesome.
That was a great scene, giving his little speech about the island that he
Right.
owns.
He's standing on a boat while basically a servant worker is lowering the escape boat. What do you call them? The
little
life
dinghy?
raft dinghy. And James Coburn standing on the second story of the boat, like in it. And they're just slowly lowering it deck by deck, and of course some of the cast is on each deck, and so he's talking to them as he's slowly being lowered. That was really cool.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound cool from the way we explained it.
No, just watch the movie.
It just was. God damn it!
I got the DVD from my library, the Los Angeles library. They have one copy floating
And you
around.
never returned it, apparently. I ripped it. Wink, wink. Nudge, nudge.
It's kind of a harder to find one. You might find it on eBay or something. Definitely worth checking
Yeah.
out if you can get it from Netflix through their
Well, it's
mail.
Warner Brothers, so I'm
service.
guessing maybe they've released. This is probably one of those movies that Warner Brothers sells only through their archive.
Oh, like
'Cause
they'll make you
they
a
have their
copy
archive
per
collection.
order. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah, that could
if
be.
you looked it up, they'd send you at least the DVD.
But if you like a twist on an Agatha Christie style mystery, if you like the movie Clue,
or any of the Scream movies,
yeah,
they
because
had
there's
an
a
element of that.
There's a few
I
reversals.
Know What You
and
Did
stuff.
Last Summer, kind of.
Yeah, it's not a slasher movie by any means, but there's a lot to process while you watch this movie.
Yeah,
a lot of clues.
No, I liked it. I suggest other people watch it.
Great, you sound real excited about it too.
I'm so excited. It's also like 10 in the morning. What time is it?
It's noon.
It's noon. Whatever.
All right, are we ready to roll some commercials?
Yeah, buddy.
Roll commercials.
We don't have commercials at the end, Mark.
What are we doing at the end now? Not the introduction.
Our little Dragon Wagon outro.
Oh, okay. Well,
And
that's a commercial
Dragon-
for Dragon Wagon.
Sure.
I guess
Stinger.
give our names and stuff if people don't know who we are.
People don't care. I'm Chad Peter.
Chad's feeling depressed right now because nobody cares.
I'm Chad Peter.
I'm Mark Heiliger.
And
You can find us on Twitter and Instagram.
At the hell with this podcast on Instagram.
And Twitter is at THWT Podcast.
All right. Well, see you later.
It's Dragon Wagon.
Gamebox Monthly sends a new awesome indie tabletop game right to your door every month. There are multiple subscriptions to choose from, and you can personalize them to fit your style. Also, you're guaranteed to never get a title you already have, letting you focus on what matters most, having a great time with great people.
So visit GameboxMonthly.com and use the promo code DRAGON to get an exclusive discount just for the hell with this listeners.
Once again, that's GameboxMonthly.com.
Rediscover social.